wanted to drive a Diablo SV, particularly with the big decals on the side. This car was launched in 1996, so I'd have been 14 at the time, and obviously very impressionable. But everything I read about it, Diablos, I mean, the devil, it's a car that has a fearsome reputation, to be honest. I thought it would be phenomenally difficult to drive. I thought the seating position would be awkward. But the reality is not like that at all. It's so much better than I expected. Let's start with the seating position, because Italian cars, you think, well, yeah, it's going to be built for somebody certainly not of my height. But this seems to be pretty much perfect, to be honest. The seats are lovely, slimline, unlike modern Lamborghinis. Steering wheel comes obviously a long way out here, so you can get really comfortable. And then you expect, well, the pedals are going to be all the way across in the middle or something. I'm going to have to put my pelvis at a curious sort of angle to be able to drive it, but not a bit of it. The actual pedals are quite small, but they're really well placed. Early Diablos had no power assistance, but this has got power steering, and it makes the world of difference, I can imagine. Through the corners, you're constantly aware that you've got a very light front end and then all that weight behind you, but actually there's not too much roll, so you don't have to worry too much.
Those massive rear tyres are wrapped around 18-inch OZ split rim alloys, but early SVs like this actually have 17-inch wheels at the front. The change to 18-inch fronts on later cars was in order to allow the fitment of bigger brakes. The chassis is a steel space frame, while the bodywork is a mix of aluminium and reinforced composites. The suspension is comprised of unequal length wishbones at each corner, with anti-roll bars front and back. Although the SV is set up more firmly, the ride feels about spot on to me, even on bumpy British B roads. The Alcantara-lined SV is more stripped out inside and has less sound deadening, but weight is still relatively high at around 1,570 kilos, and distributed about as unequally as you'd expect, with a ratio of 41-59 front-rear. The other defining factor of the SV is, of course, that the power is only delivered to the rear wheels.
Pour it through the corner and then open it up. We've got massive 335 section rear tyres. You can just open the steering on the exit of the corner and then squats down and fires you down the road. A bit like a Lamborghini speedboat.
You're certainly aware of the weight behind you through every part of the corner, but if the tail does start to swing, you can actually catch it remarkably easily with that small wheel and the help of power assistance. It's not agile exactly, but it is adjustable, and it's certainly not the bear-like wrestling match you might expect.
Other things I was expecting, the clutch is actually fine. I'd sort of thought you might need 2 feet to operate it. The driving position, as I say, is great. To be honest, my Clear 182 has probably got a funkier driving position. Don't get me wrong, it's still a massive event, and you've got curious things like this up here, and the fact the window goes all the way down there to these huge, long mirrors, which still you can't see an awful lot out of, but more than I thought.
What you can see in the mirrors are the gaping intakes on the Diablo's massive 2-metre wide haunches. For the Super Veloce, these were augmented by 2 intakes on the roof, which had first been seen on the limited edition SE30 Yota. The glorious 5.7 litre naturally aspirated V12 received a slight uplift in output over early Diablos, putting out 510 brake horsepower at 7,100 RPM and 428 pounds-foot of torque at 5,900 RPM. This was enough to see it to 60 miles an hour in under 4.5 seconds and on to 202 miles an hour flat out, although you could actually spec a shorter final drive on the SV, and that brought the top speed down to 186.
This is sort of right in the heart of the life of the Bizzarini Lamborghini V12, and 5.7 litres having come from 3.5 and going all the way up to 6.5 at the end of the Murcielago. I love it from low revs, and it comes through, and then 4,000 RPM it starts to pick up 5,000. Whoa! That is not the sort of engine you get anymore. big chested but still revs. Got a long throttle and really tall gearing. I mean, it came in GT4, looks like it's on sprint gearing compared to this.
The actual gear shift is certainly enjoyable to use. It's quite hefty when cold and it retains some of that weight when warm, but develops a lovely slickness around the 5-speed dogleg gate.
I love the fact that this car really gets used as well. It's not quite a daily Diablo, but the owner puts a lot of miles on it, which is just wonderful, I think.
It's made all the more special by the fact that this is a pretty rare car, with just over 30 SVs and fewer than 200 Diablos in total thought to have come to the UK. The SV was the entry-level Diablo, and as such would have set you back a relatively reasonable £125,000 in the mid-90s. Today you can still pick one up for under £150,000, which seems incredibly good value to me. I mean, just look at it. The styling might not be pure Marcello Gandini, but it is still such a spectacular slice of slanting, sultry supercar. The scissor doors remain more of an event than Glastonbury, and I'm a sucker for the pop-up headlights of this early car.
This has been an absolutely brilliant day. Because this car has got all the drama and theatre that I hoped. All that bedroom poster appeal. But it's also drivable and usable. It's not the terrifying, unapproachable thing I thought it might be. And that doesn't diminish it at all. What a car.